But it's like I have this fantasy idea in my head. Like I have literally have this world in my head, and it's building itself already. Like there's already a war brewing, and there's fire everywhere in the kingdom, and I can already see it in my head. But it's like I haven't actually had the time to sit down and actually write it. Hey guys, when you go to cons, you meet some amazing people. You meet some interesting people, and a lot of people don't really stop by, every single booth, but I have an eye for attention and detail, and Jess knows that. And I love fantasy art. I love fantasy. My whole life is encompassed in fantasy. Like I have that dream of wanting to write a fantasy world and build it out. I'm a DM for our D campaign, which you love so much. We basically geek out when it comes to fantasy. It's like I stopped reading books for a while, and then I met Jess, and now my entire bookshelf is filled with fantasy novels that I still have to read. Like I have not read Game of Thrones, but I've saw the show, and I have the box set sitting in front of me. I just like, engrossing in fantasy. And so as I was at, was it Galaxy? No, Fan Expo. Is it Fan Expo? Is it Fan Expo in Cleveland, Ohio recently? And as I was walking down Artist Alley, this one artist's art caught my attention. I had to call Jess. I'm like, Jess, you have to see this. So I literally called her and put her on FaceTime and showed her Lorraine's art. It is amazing. And so that's why we've asked her here to be on Warrior Roundtable, because as we said, and we'll say time and time again, what is the Warrior Roundtable?
It's a chance to geek out and share everything that we geek out about. And for those who are the geeks, to share their geekiness.
Yay!
And it's also a chance to showcase the warrior in all of us. Every single one of us, whether you're an artist, an illustrator, a writer, even a video game designer, even a cosplay artist, and just creating your own cosplay. You are a warrior in your own trade because you take the time and the energy to put it into the beautiful works of art that we all create. So today on our show, we have a special guest. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. So my name is Lorraine. I go by Lore, and I have a different username is also Figment Forms on Tumblr and some other social media. And thank you for saying all those nice things. I do appreciate that.
Quite true, though.
Well, look at the picture.
Oh, thanks.
You got there. Well, you want to tell the audience what that is that you drew? That little image there?
Oh, my little icon. It's my little Minish avatar. That's what I use on Tumblr. Like I was talking to them a little bit earlier. I'm a little camera shy, and so I was like, I'll just put up my avatar on there. So.
And don't worry, guys, if you want to see her art, we're going to showcase her art in a little bit. But we wanted you guys to get to know her first and hear a little bit about her story and what got her into this fantasy realm and what got her into things. And then I want to bring in something huge that I started getting into that I shared with Jess today a little bit of that has taken the internet by storm. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's just say it's Zelda related.
Okay, so yeah, going oh gosh, I'm sorry, shy. I for basically as long as I can remember, kind of drawing and doing art has been something I've really liked doing and like sharing with people. And I've been really fortunate that I've been able to make it my full-time job right now. And so now basically I do a web comic, which is my Zelda fan comic, and I do just illustrations for various game companies. I used to do a lot of that. So when you see any of my like just fantasy art and you're just like, I wonder what this is, it's probably for a game. I did a lot of stuff for like a game called Mage Wars, and I think I did like 1 or 2 pieces for Dungeons and Dragons, but never anything major, just the little stuff, and like Dragon Magazine. And mostly now I'm also working on my own game. I have a module which is cryptid based. I don't know if you guys saw that at the show.
No, I didn't get a chance to see, but
I'll have to show you. It's a it's a comedy based module for D20 system game, and it's basically the premise is that the cryptids will only be photographed for like the world's greatest bikini calendar shoot and nothing less because they're picky and they want to be fancy and like spoiled and treated really nice. And so the whole module is like there's these big powerful entities, but they're all like, oh, they really want to go to like, you know, theme parks, or they want to do singing, or they want to do gaming, and you have to make them happy so that they'll participate in your project. But I'm working with a game designer now to go from just the purely role-playing part to a like full card game, tabletop game with it. So hopefully that'll be done. Oh, thanks.
And she already spoiled it. I was gonna wait until the end, but Zelda
Sorry.
webcomic. It's taking the world by storm. I saw when I was looking at some of the older things, 'cause I never heard of it until I met you at the fan expo that I went to, and I saw you at a couple other comic conventions I went to, but we were all like at that time we were under lots of stress with the little boy and wrangling, so we didn't get to see much of the expos that we were at last year. But I saw this webcomic and I started reading it, and needless to say, it is fantastic. And now you've got even people on YouTube making live action, like not live action, I should say, like you've seen them, the animated comics where they take the comics and they
The dubbing.
and they're moving the moving pieces with the voiceovers, and it's on YouTube. And people are falling in love with it. And they're like, oh, where's this come from? Then they go back and find her website and they find that she did it. And they're like, oh, this is cool. And the whole premise of the story, and I don't know if you remember me telling you this, is that Princess Zelda finally gives in to Ganondorf because she's tired of all the wars. She knows that he's tired of getting his ass beat by Link all the damn time. Link keeps coming back in his multiple forms. So she decides to marry him to finally secure their kingdoms together. And then I guess later on they have kids, and it's like antics galore of all the kingdom antics. And I was just reading, I skipped ahead and read the last two ones she did, and let's say this is hilarious.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
I grew up on webcomics, so I love webcomics. Like I grew up on I forgot what it was. I forgot the name of the creators, but it was a Mega Man webcomic, and I showed it to you once. It was that one where you got the little tiny little Mega Man from the 8-bit walking into work, and it's like all the office craziness that happens with Dr. Light and Dr. Wily. And it's like, so I love reading these webcomics, and I didn't know this existed until now. So it's like it's captured my heart because I'm a huge Zelda nerd. And with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom just coming out next month, it's like Zelda is still taking the world by storm.
It's
So long that's been going on with how popular it's been.
yeah, it's neat. It's really iconic, and just how there's been different versions that different generations relate to. Like, you know, the older gamers, they have the older versions of the game, and now you have the younger ones who are like on the really modern ones that are all sleek and have like the good graphics. It's like, oh, and then the storytelling in them is really good too. Like you get, you know, in Majora's Mask, you have like the kind of outline of grief and kind of overcoming all that. And Wind Waker, it's really funny. I was surprised after I played Wind Waker. I was like, okay, I kind of understand how the sailboat thing works. And then years later, I got on a real sailboat. I was like, oh, they really designed this well. It's a lot like this. So, yeah.
I grew up on Zelda, and it's funny how so many people think Link is Zelda, and they're like, Legend of Zelda, so that makes the main character's name is Zelda. No.
I'm guilty. I thought that for the longest time.
But the storyline, yeah, like it was non-existent at first, and it's just like you just had to make sense of what was going on, and they started building the story, and then all the mumbo jumbo of all the chaotic timelines, and there's like, okay, here's Breath of the Wild. This is set way back in the past, this and in the future, and it's like memories of this and this, and you can see Zelda and Link's memories of being lovers, I guess, or whatever. I'm like, whoa. I'm a Skyrim nerd, so I'm like Elder Scrolls, so I'm playing this big game, which is open world RPG, which is like kind of like that one game you were playing. What's that game? That Greek game you were playing? The one that it's kind of like Immortals: Phoenix Rising, where it's that open world RPG style, but you got the climbing, and all the sailboating, and all the fun stuff that you have to do, and then you have to find the story pieces, and it's amazing how far the game has came. But seeing somebody create a webcomic that's all about Zelda finally giving it to Ganondorf, and then Ganondorf, I had to laugh. Ganondorf's like, you know what this means, right? Sex. And she's like,
He was trying to scare her. He was trying to scare her away.
and she's like, I know, I'm okay with that. I want peace.
She's calling his bluff. Yeah, it's kind of. I don't try to think of it as Zelda giving in to Ganondorf, because I don't think that his intention was to ever marry her or anything. I think a lot of it is just kind of like the two of them learning to share, and then building a family is just kind of part of how they're going to share, because they're like, okay, kind of like how like back in the day people would get married to like, you know, share property. Like, I guess people still do that, but like it was more like how royalty did it back in the day. Like, okay, we got one kingdom, we got a few people who want it, let's try to make some peace here. So
Well, not only that, but that moment, and it's a spoiler for anybody who hasn't read it, that moment, you can kind of tell, though, he's kind of, the way that you made Ganondorf portrayed, he's not as evil as they've made him think he is. Like, he still has a heart, because the moment she kisses him, you see that look of his face change just for a moment. And then it goes back to, now wanting to come out, wanting to do that whole old school 80s vibe that he had every time he got foiled by Link, of that pig snout talking. And it's like, it's amazing what you've done so far with that. That's
oh, thanks.
congratulations on that.
Thanks. I have a lot of fun with the characters for pretty much the whole thing. I try to like make the characters as have all the layers that like a normal person would have, like all the good and the bad, and you know, every bad person there's some good, and every good person there's some bad. And I I tried to write Zelda as if she was Picard, like from Star Trek. And I tried to, Ganondorf is kind of Worf. You know how Worf tries to be all scary, like, rah!
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think a lot of times, like one person who could be a villain in one situation can be a good guy in another. You just have to have a different situation. And I like exploring like what would it take to make a good person bad? What would it take to make a bad person good? And that's that sort of dynamic.
You have a lot of fun with that dynamic.
It's so fun.
Well, when you see Skull Kid's like, oh my God, he's a prankster. I'm like, I always thought of him as the prankster type, because when you play Hyrule Warriors, you can kind of see when he comes out and shows himself and then disappears again, how much of that, and then she just takes it and highlights it even more. It's like, wow, the pranks that this guy comes up with is wow.
Oh my gosh. He was put in sort of as like a foil to just give, you know, Rinku something to do, like to have someone to interface with. And then he has blossomed into, I think, my favorite character. Like, I have so many plans for how I'm going to develop him in, like, you know, the continuing story arcs and stuff. And I'm really excited about him and Rinku's. Rinku, do you mind if I spoil something?
No, go
Go
for
ahead.
So basically the overall premise is, yeah, Zelda and Ganondorf trying to make a political marriage work. But the reason why she's trying to make this political marriage work is because Link got reincarnated as her kid, and her kid is just too young to send off to fight. So she's like, I need to come up with a temporary, at least, option for not fighting until, you know, at least Link is big enough to stand a chance. So it's also a stalling technique.
Well, being the Zelda fan that I am, I've always thought about what would happen, because if that happened, because like Zelda's always been the princess, no matter which way you've looked at it, but Link has been reincarnated as so many different things, and it's like, okay, I wonder what would happen if, and then you went with it. You just went with that what if scenario, and
no, it's really fun. Eventually, I am afraid that Nintendo eventually is going to be like, hey, cut that out. So
fan art. It's fan art.
Yeah, Nintendo will only go after you if you're like selling copies of like the actual physical copies of books and stuff, from what I understand, because they love that Mega Man one that was going on. Well, that was Capcom that made Mega Man, but it was still through Nintendo at the time, and
Mhm.
they actually used some of the tropes of the artists from Mega Man's web comics and threw them in the Mega Man cartoon show that they did during the early 90s. And I was like, wow, they're giving tribute to the artist without, directly saying it, but this is like, that was in that web comic and I read it.
Yeah, that's kind of it's such a weird gray area with that, because I understand like these companies, like they don't necessarily want to say like, oh, we're inspired by that person who's a fan, because then like the fan person can come back and say like, you took my idea and all this other stuff. So it's a complicated area. I do want to get to the point where I can call this an original work. So I have like a story thing I'm going to have happen where, oh, something's going to happen and it won't be Nintendo copyright anymore. So
Oh, we
Hmm.
spoke to another artist, Jessica's favorite comic artist and writer, Rob. I forget what his last name is, but
Tell it's Lone Wolf Comics.
I'll let you explain that.
sounds
Why.
familiar.
Yeah,
What do they do?
Lone Wolf Comics has comic book artists. He's got Nightwolf as well as Snowpaw are his two comic lines that he's writing right now.
Nice.
They've been at several of the cons, showing everything off. He hasn't quite been able to take it full time yet.
Oh,
He's-
I wish him all the luck.
Hmm?
Oh, sorry, you cut out. I was just wishing him luck.
Oh, yeah, no. So what he does is for each of his issues that he creates, he does Kickstarters. That's how he's able to get them out and be able to still share his art.
That's a really good idea. I feel kind of lucky in a way that I started with fan art, because as I, with the writing, make it so that it's not fan art anymore. I have a reader base already. That wasn't my intention. I never intended to. Honestly, I didn't think I would be making this comic for this long. It's just people, liked it and encouraged me to keep it up. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's making you guys happy, and I like doing it. And the Patreon.
What got you to start making the comic then?
Oh, dude, I just I really wanted to see Zelda and Ganondorf kiss. I just want, and I needed a story reason. And yeah, I just got to, thinking about what the different dynamics could be, what would be an excuse, why, because I feel like you need a pretty good why there, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of like the things where like, oh, Ganondorf is forcing the relationship or things like that. And I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be complicated and have depth and actually have real affection and respect between the characters in this romance. I didn't want it to just be like this, like pushy, like, oh, I'm taking, like that sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
Like, that has its place. That's fine. I'm not putting any judgment on that, but it's just not, I wanted to do something a little more complicated than that, I guess.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. It sounds similar to what Marvel was doing with their What If series.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Oh, sorry. I'll silence my phone.
Okay. So out of curiosity, then, like, do you know kind of what you have planned for the next little bit on that? Or do you kind of go, okay, from idea to idea?
I have like big arcs put together. Basically, how I do it is I write out an overall script, which is like the skeleton of what I want to have happen. I'm like, okay, I know I want to have like this character do this thing and it'll have this big effect. But when it comes to like the actual, like I call them, I think of them as little mini episodes. I try to make every update a small self-contained little thing, and I try to put humor in it when I can. So anybody who's just jumping in, if they only see one comic strip of what I've done, they at least get something amusing out of it. And then they're like, oh, look, there's more. And as you go through it, like it slowly builds up a bigger story. So
the reason why I brought up Lone Wolf Comics in the first place is because that guy had a dream of wanting to write, and he originally started like one of his characters is based off of X-Men, one of the X-Men characters that was long forgotten, which was Snowpaw, but then he branched her out and made his own character over time after he started developing a story for Marvel that they never accepted. So he did fan novelizations online. He said, and he did that as a kid and as a teenager. And then his journey took him to developing his own series, which is now a comic series / graphic novel series. And he's doing his thing at the cons too. So with you mentioning eventually taking the Legend of Zelda and Tale of Two Rulers and branching off into your own thing, that's great, because now that you see the end result, so if Nintendo does come knocking one day and you're not on, you can easily start, okay, well, I already have the storyline ready. Here we go. Let's just get into it. Here we go. Here's the ending. Here's my new one.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and I'm really glad that I came up with a story friendly way to do it. I'm not just going to go through and for no reason all of a sudden everybody logs in and all my stuff is like, oh, Ganondorf's name is now Manendorf and this is Helda, all the art's changed a little bit. I am going to eventually do that, but it will be a cool story reason for that. It's not going to be just because I'm scared and trying not to get sued into oblivion.
On the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I'm really excited to get to that plot part. I think it's going to be cool. I love it when, especially with something like a webcomic, people can kind of do things like that. Like you can kind of retroactively go back and change something. Like I did have to make one revision. I originally wanted to have Skull Kid just basically be like a dark silhouette with eyes. And then I realized he's going to be such an important character. I need him to be able to emote more than that. So I decided to go with the whole, he's a skeleton, but with plant material growing over it instead of flesh. So you got the bark and the wood and the vines basically comprise him over a skeleton.
Okay, I just gotta say, I really, really wish he'd shown me this.
I did show you. You were so wrapped up in the other comic that you just didn't have time to.
Mm-hmm.
This is a design for Skull Kid. Yes, that's what it's supposed to look like in the games, and what she's describing is much more cool because he's also the guy who, spoilers if you haven't played Majora's Mask, people, but he's one of the ones behind Majora's Mask.
Okay, so thank you.
I love having an undead character because there's just so much cool stuff you can do with him. He's pretty invincible in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So some of the worries you don't have to worry about then when it's just a flesh wound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I am literally held together with magic. I'm fine.
Oh, so we're kind of worried. You said you were talking about, worrying if Nintendo's ever going to shut down. I have manga collections of The Legend of Zelda. So there are out there who took literally their own versions of the stories and changed it at Liberty and created and got Nintendo's permission to create stuff that's actually for sale. But since you're a comic, I think you should be okay. But I'm not a legal person, so don't take my advice. But you should be okay because from what I've seen, a lot of the fan fiction community, people go on there all the time and they just create fan fictions of storylines, and eventually, if they get cease and desist, they end up evolving and changing it into their own story. So it's great that you have a plan for that, because I personally loved it and I want to showcase some of her art. So I'm going to share my screen for a minute. So here is some of the fantasy art that I want to, earlier in the broadcast when we first started was that.
Oh yeah, that I did that for a group of people who played D&D. They saved up and they had me do the illustration for their party.
And that's what I was about to say. That's perfect for D&D. So any D&D nerds that's seeing this is right here. This is what was that? This is perfect for you guys, because look at all the fantasy themed art. That's why we reached out, because I wanted to showcase her doing her thing. There's the Beholder. There's the pencil drawing in the Beholder.
How we started.
There you are, definitely you.
Yeah, I use myself as photo reference a lot just because I'm around. So the whole I'm always there when I need me. Sorry.
No, it's cool. Oh, I like that because it's like you use yourself as self inspiration for other characters. Because that's what we do at D&D Nerds. We pretty much are there, and we put ourselves in character all the time, and we just go into that, and to see ourselves actually fleshed out. Okay, cool. To see ourselves actually fleshed out, we want that, so when we go to cons, if somebody's offering to say, hey, I'll sketch your character, just give me a description of what your character looks like and I'll try my best to do it. Boom, we want that because we love that. So having that, ability, like recently the Baldur's Gate artist that does the Baldur's Gate game series was running a contest for 2 lucky people that got chosen could have their portraits drawn in game and have them actually added in game as an in-game character. I'm like, those are the really hypes you up as a D&D nerd because you get that, but to have a fantasy artist, let alone somebody who could help, work as an illustrator for, if you wanted to do, say, a fantasy project and turn a novel into a graphic novel, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to do a lot of those at conventions. People would have me draw their OCs and stuff and their D&D characters. And oh man, there were so many Gen Cons that I was just up until 3 a.m. trying to catch up on all that work. And then waking up the few hours later and going back to my booth and doing it all over again. But like I am old now. I can't do that anymore. I don't like living like that. So
Can't imagine why.
yeah. Well, when I was younger and in my 20s, I was like so excited and hyped up. And I've actually been kind of struggling with burnout in general right now. Like I was saying earlier, like I had my first surgery just a couple of weeks ago, and I might need more because other stuff. And like, there's just kind of like a lot of transition happening in my life right now. And it's hard to keep up on things. Like right now, like I'm a little bit stressed. I'm like, oh gosh, I got to get my update done for this month. I didn't update last month because we were moving and the medical stuff and all of these things.
All the things that life can throw at you, but a shaman friend of mine once told me life is like a video game. So it's like, to me, it's like life is fantasy. Like for those people who live in their heads all the time in the fantasy world, you need to take it outside of yourself and actually create something. So if you want, I'll say this once, I'll say it multiple times on all of our shows. If you have something you need to create, like if you have a idea for a novel, or you have an idea for a comic book, or you have an idea for just, drawing and creating art, do it. Just step outside of yourself and do it. And go to cons and find people who are already doing it and reach out to them and ask for advice and talk to them about how they got started. And that's another reason why we brought you on, is we wanted to talk to you about how you got started in all of this, what got you started in the fantasy realm of things, first of all, and also what inspired the Legend of Zelda webcomic.
Oh, well, going back to your thing about encouraging people, I love encouraging people to make stuff and draw stuff. It is the most rewarding thing in the world. My life is so much better because I started the webcomic, because I made some of my best friends just, from people who are reading it and reached out and talked to me. And it's just so rewarding to see people enjoying the thing that you made and that you like. Something that I like to tell people who are just starting out, who might be a little bit nervous, is that having it exist imperfectly is better than having it not exist at all. So nothing will ever be perfect. You'll always look back and go, oh, that looks kind of crappy. That's not very good. Just kind of embrace the fact that you're happy it exists. Perfection is impossible. There will always be someone better. There will always be someone worse. What matters is that you sat down, you took the time, you enjoyed yourself as you went, and brought something into the world. So yeah, are there going to be people who hate it? Of course, but you don't do it for them. You do it for you, and you do it for the people who like it. Because at the end of the day, the only opinions that really matter are the opinions of people who appreciate it.
And that's the beauty of convention too. That's what I told Jess when I went to my first convention. I was only there, just to meet the celebrities, and I didn't realize that conventions are giant shopping malls.
Yes,
Lots of stuff you can get in trouble with. And as time went by, my second year of going to a Comic-Con in my third year. And my third year of going to Comic-Con was last year with Jess, and going last year and seeing the stuff, actually taking the time to go, you see each artist has their own take on things, and you're going to be drawn to one or the other. You might be drawn to both. Like if one person says, okay, they're going to make a more gothic, darker version of a fantasy where everything's getting destroyed and it's decayed and flesh and all that, where the other person's going to make it epic, like your art. It's like one person might be drawn to the darker side. One person might be drawn to the more fantasy-esque side. One person might be drawn to both because they like both aspects of their storytelling, you know? And it's like every picture you do is a story in itself. Like I told you the story once. When I was a kid, my grandma was encouraging me to draw a lot because I loved drawing manga style. And so I drew this picture that I have somewhere down in the basement, stored down there, of the Fruits Baskets characters. And I drew it and I sent it in, and I got a postcard back saying, thank you for your amazing fan art. And it was even signed by the editor on the back saying, thank you for fan art. We have displayed this on our site, and it will be in a future issue of whatever the magazine was that they were being published in at the time over in Japan. I'm like,
That's so cool.
someone accepted my art. And then just like over time, I just stopped doing it, went back and did it. And I drew a picture of Baby Yoda recently last year. One of my best moments of being an artist. I drew a picture of Baby Yoda and I made my own unique wanted poster. And Giancarlo Esposito was at the con. It was at Motor City Con. It was, yeah. I walk up to his booth. I'm just waiting in line for the hour and a half. I walk up to his booth and he's like, so you here for anything? You here to gonna buy something, or you just coming here to say hi? I'm like, actually, here's this. I'm coming to claim the bounty. And so he automatically goes into character. He's like, he thought I was one of the artists from Fan Alley. He's like, where's your booth at? I was like, no, I did this myself. This is my own wanted poster. And he goes back into RP again. He's like, where's the child? He calls over a stormtrooper cosplayer. He's like, come, quick. This man, this kid, because I was Deku. I was dressed up as Deku from My Hero Academia. He's like, this kid, the superhero kid, he knows where the child is and he's coming to our side. He wants paid. So he literally pulls out his wallet and he's like, goes back into regular Giancarlo Esposito. He's like, how much do you want for this? I'm like, well, not something I'm selling. I'm giving this to you because I like your work and I figure you'd love this. So here's something to frame. And he's like, no one's ever done that for me before, first of all. And second of all, your talent is amazing. I was like, just hearing that from somebody that's not my family, not my friends, puts the stamp on it. It's like, oh my God. So he literally pulls an autograph out, autographs a poster of himself and hands it to me. And he's like, there's your payment. And I'm like, I just got paid $80.
Official.
Goes back to your point, like just get it down, because you never know how people are going to react. And he's still high on it over a year later.
Yeah,
That's a special moment, though.
I've got my art supplies over there and I still haven't sat down to do any art. And I want to.
Little boy.
Little boy plus just not feeling confident enough with my art still, because it's like I want to be able to design my own characters and I have ideas in my head, but I don't know how to see them come to fruition. So it's like I just draw other people's characters that they've already drawn, take my own take on it, like Kirito up there, or Pikachu or something simple. I could do that, but coming up with my own unique characters is the hardest part. And
just kind of think of it as like a Mr. Potato Head. You just kind of draw your basic form and try putting a bunch of different stuff on it. Like the only thing that will really get it out of your head is just, you got to draw it. You just got to sit there and do a bunch of concept art, and don't start on too big a piece of paper. That gets intimidating. I would just, those little flashcards, those little
5x8.
Yeah, little, or even smaller. I use like a 2x4 inch, those little things you use for flashcards for like learning stuff, memorization. I get those without the lines on them, and I'll just do little pencil sketches of different versions. And that way you can see what works and what doesn't. And you can't get too in depth with detail and spend forever on it because it's only so big. So,
is that my Virgo side coming out?
Yes.
just draw it, get it out of your head, bring it into the world.
So Are you gonna go out back and draw later?
Go draw.
Go ahead. I want to draw. I've got a dragon formulating in my head right now that I'd love to put on paper.
There
We
we
can
go.
do it. Put it out there. That I think it was on Adventure Time. That I don't remember much about the show, but there was one line that really stuck with me that I really, really love. And I think about whenever I start feeling insecure about trying something new or trying something hard, is like, I think it was Jake the dog. He said something like, the first step to getting good at something is you gotta like suck at it first. So you just gotta suck at it for a little bit and then you'll get good. So
That's true. Pretty much everything you try.
goes with anything, goes with cooking, goes with, exercise, any kind of, getting good at talking to people, social stuff. Like you just kind of get the bad stuff out of your system and then you can get onto the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speechless still because I'm still thinking of ideas in my head now. It's like it's a dark, vast space up there, and all I see is a ship floating through the sky in my head.
There you go.
A dragon
Yeah,
ship.
the zoning out, fantasizing like, this is fun. Yeah, like I get it.
Well, that's kind of how it is with me and Jess. Like we're working on a project right now because we're dating coaches for geeks, gamers, and pop culture lovers and nerds. And so we go to the cons and we show up in your cosplay and everything, talk to people. But it's like I have this fantasy idea in my head. Like I literally have this world in my head, and it's building itself already. Like there's already a war brewing, and there's fire everywhere in the kingdom, and I can already see it in my head. But it's like I haven't actually had the time to sit down and actually write it. Because people are always saying that when you're working on one project, you shouldn't start a second project. But
Bah, that's a lie. Just do whatever you want.
Manage to keep everything straight.
Yeah, maybe blending together is what they were supposed to do.
Touche.
Yeah,
What-
just
didn't I say that?
unrestrained creation.
And that idea is actually going to blossom into something bigger too, because I already have ideas of what I want to do with it. Like I want to see eventually I want our D&D room to have like huge pictures in the wall of like fantasy epic battle scenes. Because it's me as a DM just sitting behind that screen with the ideas up my head and the ideas up my sleeve.
As to what kind of trouble he can toss my druid into.
Well, right now we're just doing the preconceived modules somebody else came up with. But wait until we get to the ones where I start creating my own world.
I'm a little scared.
Well, that'll be awesome though.
Oh yeah. No, that's having fun. It's just kind of seeing, okay, what kind of imagination, wherever it takes you. 'Cause,
Mhm.
I mean, some of the fan art out there is astonishing. You got the ones that will be more realistic, and you have the ones that are more fantastical.
Even
And
the weird and strange, like the Addams Family-esque style Gothic art that we saw at the one convention. That was definitely
That's fun.
Yeah, but all of it is just letting the imagination flow and just see wherever it takes you.
Sometimes I'll hear from people like they feel like, oh, I can't do this because this has already been done. And that's something else too, is that you can never do what other people do and they can never do what you do. So you will never be replaced. I don't care how, maybe some troll might say like, you deserve. Don't listen to them. What you make, no matter how hard you try, you can never replace someone else and they can never replace you. Just bring it into the world.
Oh, as my grandma used to say, my grandma had like a lot of wisdom. You can ask Jess from stuff I've shared with her, but my grandma always said to me, she's like, just because it's been done by a different person, she's like, there's no such thing as a unique idea anymore, an original idea. Everybody has similar ideas, but she's like, it's like, suppose she's like, when she was talking like about Westerns and things, she's like, suppose I came up with a concept for a Western. Well, it's already been done where maybe it's already been done where the woman's the hero and she has to rescue her man from the outlaws. But she's like, but the way that I build my characters or write my characters is completely different than the way that they write their characters. Like my woman might be a total badass where theirs started out as a wimp and then became solely the hero, or maybe she failed in the end. She's like, every story is unique in its sense with like, same with fantasy, the fantasy tropes. Every story is unique in a sense that each writer puts their own touch on it. Each artist puts their own touch on it. Each person puts their own touch on literally everything. That's why if you're, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with us, Lorraine,
Mhm.
when it comes to this, if people out there are struggling or want to start becoming an artist or a writer or anything, if they haven't already, the best place to start is by going to conventions, because going to conventions, you're going to meet those same people similar to you that might have a similar idea, and you might make your next partner to work with you on a project, or you might be able to see other artists who are already doing something similar of the style you want to do, or maybe there's a novelist who's written a similar style to what you want to do, or maybe you're creating a board game and you see somebody who created a board game, might not be your style, but you can talk to them about how they came up with the concept of the board game and just get tips and pointers and just to go and embrace yourself in the culture that's going to be your audience one day.
Yeah, like dive in, find the community. It doesn't have to be just in person. I think some of the best kind of feedback I got was just from the early days of my comic, talking to people on Tumblr.
Behind. But I'm saying, there you are. Good job.
Oh,
Can I get a
Sorry.
hug? I know you don't want to be on camera, but can I get a hug?
no,
Gotta reuse his cup after each drink instead of getting a new one every single
No, you're
time.
not getting food.
you don't want endless cups to clean?
Oh! You're looking
Never ending cup stream?
No. We need to get on board the Enterprise and fast forward into the future. Have them beam us to a planet that's far, far away in the future, and they already have dishwashing technology where everything's done for you, and then bring it back with us, steal it and bring it back with us. It might start a galactic war, but I want the technology.
I know.
Or you could find like a hose that's safe to drink out of and just hook it up to the sink, and you could just drag the hose around the house and just whenever. There you go.
Forget
Come
dishwashing
handy.
machines. Dishwashing laser. Okay, it's clean. It's clean. We're done. Oh, wait, is that a spot over there on the countertop? Done.
Don't they have that? I think, yeah, in Lower Decks and the newer animated Star Trek, it looks like they clean stuff by blasting it with some sort of phaser or something.
See, the idea I just came, I've not seen that. The idea I just came up with has already been done. So see, there's a point proven right there.
I was
Somebody
gonna say,
might have
come on.
done it, but it's in a completely different media than what you'd want to do it in. Like, I'm not sitting in Star Trek in the future, although I wish I was, because man, Picard's awesome.
Picard is awesome. I really, even just the actor who plays him, I really like some of his talks about he did some talks a number of years ago about domestic violence, talking about his own family and how it influenced his life and stuff. And he just said some stuff I really needed to hear. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
some things.
that's another thing too, the reason why we started this Warrior Roundtable is to focus on hope for people, because a lot of people out there, they've gone through abusive situations, they've gone through breakups, they've gone through terrible pasts, but our past, doesn't define us. And if they need help, there's always those guys out there that they look up to, some of those heroes, the people who play those heroes. I guarantee if you can find it, they've probably said something, a quote or two, on things that can inspire you, like
Mhm.
hard there, and there's all sorts of different what's that hero that I looked up to, I'm trying to remember, had the YouTube, I used to love the YouTube motivational videos. Like I used to just go and
Oh,
listen to them, and like one of my favorite all-time heroes and mentors that's no longer with us is Bruce Lee. And I used to, when I was a kid growing up, when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old, I would sit there and literally listen to his videos and watch his old interviews and just gross myself in the comments section down there, what people were saying it meant to them. And I'm just like, fast forward to now, his daughter's now carrying on his legacy. She wrote a book about, his Be Like Water concept. And it's just like, we live in a time and age where we need to be connecting with each other more.
yeah.
Conventions really helps, because Jessica and I have mentioned, how many times have we mentioned this, when we talk about the great communities. Yes, a lot of the communities have become toxic with negativity and trolls, but when you go to a convention and you're actually out there with the people mingling and you're dressed up in your cosplayer,
It's a huge positive energy just flowing.
Mhm.
And it's absolutely amazing how the community can come together.
I witnessed that firsthand, because when I was doing this first that rendition of Star-Lord that you saw was the second rendition of my Star-Lord costume, because the first one I did, I just had on jeans. I put on some Converse. I put on my Avengers jacket and had a Groot T-shirt, and just walked in because everybody said my face looks like Chris Pratt, Star-Lord. So I walked into that con in December, and we're down there in GalaxyCon down in Columbus, and I'm walking around with my son who's doing cosplay as well, a little 12-year-old Pikachu, and so he's my
Aw.
Pikachu, a Rocket and Pikachu, and this guy out of nowhere drops his blasters, expensive blasters that he 3D printed. He dropped them, and he looks up at me and he's like, "Oh, you're me." And I'm like, "No, no, no." I start doing an RP with him. I'm like, "No, you're me." I'm like,
Aw.
cross. And my little son comes up behind him like, quick, don't let Pikachu touch the blasters. Or Rocket touches the blasters. Either one of them, either way, our galaxies are screwed. They're role playing with each other, and then he goes back, and this is the moment that touched my life. That shows how this community has been so amazing, especially and you can vouch for this yourself as an artist going to the cons. But he literally says to me, he's like, "Where's your blasters for real?" I said, "I left them with the Rocket on the ship." He's like, "Okay, where are they for real though? Do you have any?" "I don't see any." I was like, "I don't have any. This is what I got for Star-Lord." He's like, "Well, I'm retiring this outfit." He was a dad. He's like, "And I'm a dad myself." He's like, "It's great that you brought your kid to the con to enjoy and get into this world and just teach him to be unique to himself." He's like,
Aw.
"So if you can fix these," because he broke off one of the pieces, "if you can fix these, they're yours." And he hands them to me. He said,
Aw.
"Sis, your costume will be complete." And I'm like, in that kind of setup, in that kind of setting, where you go in there and you're not sure about yourself,
Mhm.
somebody's going to reach out a hand and somebody's going to say something amazing to you.
Mhm.
And it's
It's
just gonna,
nice. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are there to have a good time and be friendly and nice. Like, anytime you get a large number of people together, you're gonna have some jerks. I mean, that's just kind of that's just the nature of it. Like, I've been going to conventions now, like, gosh, since I was 17. I'm like 36 now. And and like, yeah, like the number of amazing, awesome, kind people has definitely overshadowed anybody who's ever said anything horrible. When I was younger, I think one of the coolest moments of like examples of the cool people versus the maybe less than cool person saturation rate being really good was I was dressed as Catwoman, and some guy comes up and says, like, and he was just trying to be funny. I don't actually think he meant anything mean about it. He rolled a 1 on his idea of what's a good idea to say. So I don't mean any anger towards this person, but he said something like, "You're the other word for a cat that starts with a P that I've been looking for all day." And
Wow.
just the crowd of people around me, primarily dudes, all just stopped and yelled, "Boo!" and that man, who I think he thought he was flirting. I don't think he meant any harm. He was just instantly red and like ran off. And I was like, oh my, that
is why
poor man.
that is why Jess and I formed the Dating Wars, because we want to stop that tropes of things like that, but we also want to educate guys and girls on both sides who otherwise it's awkward. They go to these conventions and think, okay, I'm not hiding behind a screen anymore. I can kind of open up, but then they completely open up and it's like,
Foot in
well,
mouth.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
they roll a 1. They well-intentioned roll a 1. And like I said, there are jerks there. Like, I've had people like threaten to like hit me with one of those, like, what's that thing where they put the knockout stuff on the rag?
Chloroform.
Yeah, chloroform.
Yeah, they were like, "I'm gonna chloroform you and drag you off," and that was not meant as a nice thing. Stuff like that. I had one guy offer, he just handed me a wad of cash and told me to get in his car. Like,
What?
I mean, it happens, but the general, like I was saying, like, these are just isolated incidents over like 2 decades of going to cons where people have been extremely nice and extremely positive and really encouraging. So like, I'm bringing this up because I don't want someone to just assume everything is like sunshine and roses and then like they run into the jerk and then they're like, oh no, it's all a lie. Like, no, I promise that there's a very low jerk saturation here.
Yeah, of course. One of my friends is a black cosplayer, and he's getting all sorts of negativity thrown at him because, oh, you shouldn't be cosplaying as a white person. You shouldn't be cosplaying as this, and it's like
Oh,
in this crowd. But the
wow.
general consensus is, if you don't let it get to you, and if you do go to a con, make sure you don't go alone. For one, make sure
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
you have
Bring,
bring you up.
friends.
Friends to back you up, but you never know what you're going to meet when you go to these cons.
Mhm.
But it's just, you know, it's a unique crowd to be able to get into your own world, to get out of your own world here and to get into your world out here, because somebody else has created that idea, or somebody else might be able to give you advice on how to create that idea. And, you know, like I said, you might even find your next partner, because
Yeah, you might find your next best friend.
Absolutely.
we've met some amazing people. And you said you're 36, I'm 36 too, gonna be 37.
Oh, there we go. Yay. So
I've been going to cons, and I can remember Jessica's first time cosplaying, and she dressed up and she was doing Ochako, right?
Mhm.
And she was worried that no one was going to recognize her, and people barely recognized her at first. But then she went back the second time to the second con. She fixed it up when she did
I fixed my
Ochako again.
wig.
She fixed the wig, and everybody's like, they didn't recognize me, but they recognized her. They're like, oh, Ochako, hey, Ochako. It's like,
I was so worried. I'm chunky. So man,
oh,
I cannot find a professionally made costume, and I'm hell with needles. So I can't
aw.
tell. So I mean, he had ordered the last parts of his Star Lord costume, so he actually has holsters now. And I have to find the local seamstress.
holsters, jacket.
Well, that just makes your costume all the better because, you know, you have a professional making it. And, you know, people of all body types should be able to be respected and appreciated when they cosplay a character. Like, sometimes people can be really mean, but I assure you, a lot of times when people are looking at you, they're like, she's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And maybe they don't say it, but I promise a lot of people are thinking it.
One of the cons we went to last year, they had a workshop actually for those who are a bit larger.
And you went to it? Did you go to
Yeah,
it?
I attended
I
that
remember
one. I want to say it was the Chicago one. But it was all about the different ways to do that. And the number one rule, which is true for anyone cosplaying, is make sure you're comfortable.
Yes. Yes. 100% yes.
And that's why I told you, because our next cosplay that we're working on, we're aiming to go to Gen Con.
Ooh.
Tabletop
Yeah.
RPGs and Critical Role supposed to be there. I mean,
Oh, I'll see you there. I have a booth there.
oh sweet. Well,
Yeah, so he's gonna be Vax.
I don't know if you heard, but Critical Role is supposed to be there because their publishing house is going to be there.
Oh, cool.
And Scott Mercer has announced, since he's the owner, CEO of the publishing house, he's going to be there to represent it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be Vaxildan, and she wants to do Keyleth. So I'm like, okay, so why don't we find
my own rendition?
yeah, why don't, if not, I told her so we could find the blueprints online, or whatever they call them, the prints of how to create the costume. And then you go, when we take it to a seamstress, she can create it, and then you just draw on your own additions using your drawing skills. So see, drawing comes in handy, people. Even if you don't know how to draw worth shit, drawing a little stick figure and just drawing like little pieces of costume, like if you don't want the leggings that are too short, or you think the dress is too short, add on some pants or something to make it unique. You can make any character your own.
Yeah, it's really cool. Sometimes people forget that, like, just because there's lots of other versions doesn't mean that it's bad to have more. Like, I think it's kind of like when people go to like a party and they go up, like someone on Tumblr made a post about this, like other people's art is like more cakes at a party. No one's like, oh, not more cake. People are like, yay, different cake. Like, it's all good. It's extra.
Oh yeah, no. Right after the last My Hero Academia movie came out, one of the cons I went to, there were so many different Dekus. Bakugo, who's the other the chick from the villains? I keep blanking on her name.
Toga.
Yeah, Toga. I mean, there's some of the main characters that everyone's dressing up as. And there's so many different ways that they were done and they were represented.
And not only that, but when I'm walking around in my Deku costume, I basically had a fail. Like I bought a almost $300 costume on Etsy that they supposedly put together, and it started falling apart piece by piece by piece.
Oh no.
I went to the first con, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna still wear it to the second con. And I met this cosplayer who's doing a pro Deku, dark Deku, and I'm like, holy shit, look at that. So he looks at me, he's like, okay, so here's what's wrong with your cosplay because I see it's falling apart. Here's some ideas of what you should do, what you could do
Yeah, to be able to
and
fix
start
it up.
to fix it up, and you can start building it. He said, I wouldn't toss it completely. He's like, you got the basic gist here. He's like, what you need to do is go home and do some drawings of sketches or something of how to do like the hood and everything. And so he had printed a 3D mask that he wasn't going to use because it didn't fit him when he finally printed it. So he looks at us, and Jessica's like, you know what, you need this. She buys it for me. And she's like, now all we have to do is go sand it, spray paint it, and then print the other armor pieces of the legs and the shoes, and you can really roll with this. I'm like,
That's awesome.
Bit by
I
bit.
like it. It's piece by piece. It's just the same with
3D
art.
printing. Yeah, 3D printing has really changed the game with a lot of cosplay.
Oh,
like
yeah.
all the stuff I used to see being made out of duct tape and cardboard. Like, I mean, those have charm to it too. I will always have a special place in my heart for duct tape and cardboard. But man, it's amazing seeing what people can do. Like before the podcast, I was showing you the Ganondorf sword that somebody who reads my comic, gosh, I feel terrible. I'll have to look up his name later, but he printed that thing out for me, and it's like the most amazing thing. I'm like, wow.
So you've got some pretty cool swords on your wall there.
I
Oh,
really
thank you.
connect with one of the artists that I met at one of the cons. She was doing the stained glass windows. And
Oh, those are beautiful.
art. And she did a stained glass art. Already had a drink. She did a stained glass art of the Hyrule Castle, of the
Ooh.
background of the Triforce and everything, with the whole story being told. And I was like, how much do you want for that? She's like, I only have one of those, and I'm not selling this one, but she's like, if I make one, she's like, I can tell you it's going to be pricey, and it's probably going to take at least a year or two, because she's like, that's how long it took me to build this one. And I was like, well, when I have my dream house, I will probably contact you and have you do that window at the top of our house, because I want my house to look like a castle.
Yeah, that's the show off thing. You bring that to show it off. You don't bring that to sell it.
Exactly. But no, it's like, I gotta say it earlier, any epic art piece, like one of the things that me and Jess are into, and you've probably, I don't know if you've ever submitted any art for this or not, but Magic the Gathering. It's a huge card game that me and Jess love. And I love, one of the things that I loved is at one time, and they did it multiple times, they came out with an expansion called Throne of Eldraine, and then they came out with another expansion based on Dungeons and Dragons. So I told Jess, I said, here's how we're playing this. We're not just playing this to cast a card. The artwork tells the story. And she's like, okay, what are you gonna do? So I'm sitting here as I'm playing the cards, I'm tapping the mana, I'm telling the story based on how the artwork is, and I'm like laying it out, and I built my decks based around the artwork, and everybody's like, this is pretty cool. But it's like the art tells a story of these cards, and just any piece that you have in your head, it starts out, you have to start with the smaller pieces and build your way up to the bigger, more so like you were talking earlier about the index cards. If you draw like a little tiny scene of a hero like slashing a sword, and maybe he's part of a bigger piece, then you can put all those pieces together, all those cards together into one, like kind of like what Pokemon does with their collectible collect cards, the little art cards, and you put all 9 of them together, and it makes a huge framed art piece.
That's cool.
It always starts small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really
big.
neat. That's cool. I'm friends with a couple Magic the Gathering artists, and they love getting to do that sort of stuff. And it's always exciting when they get to work on something they're happy about. They're like, oh, I actually got to draw something cool this time. Like,
That's it. The artwork that they come up with is,
oh, they're incredible. They're like some of the best in the world, I think. Like, it's really neat getting to see what they do. And, everyone needs encouragement sometimes. And I hope they don't think that I'm gushing over them too much. I'm just like, oh, you're so, like, you really put in the work in this, and that's really cool. And oh my gosh, one of the artists, her name is Andrea, and her work is, lately she's done a few like pieces that are actually like acrylic, like real paint, like letting stuff dry. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I never do commissions on actual paint, because if the art director doesn't like it and I have to make a big change, then it's going to take me so much longer to fix it and change it. And so I'd rather just do everything digital. But just the confidence and like the talent that it takes to do that, I just have so much respect for that.
Yeah, I've seen several artists sitting there airbrushing their art too, and I'm like the guy that we had at the one con that gave Phoenix the Pikachu picture. That was all airbrushed, you know, it was
Ooh.
drawn and then airbrushed. Like it was at the same con that we were at with. I was talking about where I was doing my first Star Lord, and my son was doing Pikachu, and he's walking around, and I'm introducing my son to the old school Pokemon game. So I looked at Phoenix. I'm like, Phoenix, look, that's the original Pikachu from like Pokemon Yellow, and there's Charizard from Pokemon Red, and there's Blue. That's what Daddy grew up with. And we start walking away, and the artist literally summons us back. He's like, "Hey, kid," and I didn't know he was talking to me or Phoenix. I didn't think he was talking to either one of us. He's like, "Little kid, yo," and he looks at me. He's like, "Hey, you." You say his name was Phoenix? I'm like, "Yeah." You guys come here. Brings us over to the booth, and says, "I got something for you, little kid." I thought he was gonna pull out candy. He literally pulls out one of his original art prints, airbrushed Pikachu, wraps
Oh,
the tube, and hands it to Phoenix and says, "This is you, but you got to promise you're gonna get it framed and hang it up for him."
oh,
I'm like, that kind of art talent, it's superb. It's like what you guys do. I told Jess, I said, I wished I had the time and the energy to be able to sit down and do full pieces like that, because I don't know how to do digital art from Adam. I'm
no,
just
sorry, my dog.
I just wish I had half that kind of talent. I'm no good.
Hey. Don't sell yourself short, really. A lot of it is just doing it a lot. It really is. Like a lot of it's just repetition, drawing the same thing hundreds of times, or taking some lessons. And never underestimate YouTube Academy. If you can't afford to go to some school or have official training, gosh, there's a lot of great tutorials. I mean, I learned how to change out a light switch with some grandpa on YouTube. Like I didn't get electrocuted or anything. It's amazing what you can do when like you just sit there and you're like, well, let's try, let's see. So
Well,
I
one of
believe
my-
in you.
One of my things that I grew up with was something that my grandma bought from Cracker Barrel, and it was Stan Lee's Art Academy. And it was this little spiral bound little dry erase thing that came with how to draw superheroes, how to draw Marvel superheroes, and even came with that paper, the trace paper that they used to
Oh
put.
yeah.
You could trace the characters, but it all started out as stick figures. You draw the stick figure, you got the
Mhm.
circle for the head, the oval for the head, you get ovals for the hands and ovals for the feet, and then you take the feet and you flesh them out into like little boxes. And then
Mhm.
you add the ovals on the kneecaps and the arms, and then you just draw the boxes around the arms, erase the stick on the inside, and then you just flesh it out from there, and you got yourself superheroes. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I never realized it was that simple. Then you watch some of the professional artists that are doing like cartoon animations on our televisions and television screens, like Simpsons, Family Guy, things like that. And you watch them, and they are showing you how to draw their characters. Like, it's really that simple.
It's just
And-
one little piece at a time, just like everything else, just one little piece at a time.
It's just the backgrounds that get hung up on me. So I talked to the one artist one time. He said to me, he's like, "Okay," he's like, "here's the best advice I can give you as an artist. You find somebody's art style that you love,
Mhm.
okay? And you just copy that. Do the way that they do their backgrounds. Because I guarantee you, not every single artist is doing realistic looking backgrounds. Not every single artist is making it look gritty. Some of them make it look, kind of half-assed, but they get away with it because people aren't looking necessarily at the backgrounds all the time. They're looking at the foregrounds, they're looking at the action going on in the front. And I'm like, that makes it so much simpler if I could just put it into practice.
You can. I believe in you. Just got to do it. So much of this is just, you just got to do it.
When he's had made that wanted poster of Roku, Baby Yoda,
No.
also done a number of other pieces from My Hero Academia.
Nice.
Because whole that con was to be able to go up to each of them and present them with a picture of their character.
I do
They
that.
always-
I do that at every single convention now. It's like I just want to be able to draw something for the convention. But I just took some time one time, and I was trying shading out for the first time. And Jessica's mother had gifted me with some of her markers. What kind of markers were they? Art color markers, watercolor style markers, or what were they?
It was the markers she used to use for card making. So I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but they're
Yeah, they're over
they're
there.
good quality markers.
So there was
Nice.
a video game that came out that I liked, and it's a really dark video game though, because the way it's structured, and it's not for people who have like mental illness or stuff like that. But it's called Doki Doki Literature Club, and there's these girls.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, they're all in this classroom together, and so there's this girl named Monica, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna try and do my own rendition of just Monica because that seems to be the hot thing. So I sat down, I drew the picture, and I did the flushing out and erasing, and I messed up, so I tried it again and again, and I did it, and then I added the coloring, and I'm doing the shading for like underneath where the bra line is, and the paper, and the shadows of the arms and the legs from the dress. And Jess's mom comes over, and she looks at me, and she's like, "Why are you not doing this for a living?"
Oh,
She's like, "Why are you not drawing things like this?" I'm like, "Well, this isn't my own creation. This is somebody else's creation that I just took my own model and did." And she's like, "But still," she's like, "somebody out there probably wants to buy that." She's like, and I'm looking at the drawing right now. This in question is the drawing is one of the most prized drawings I've never given away because you can actually see the shading on her face and
nice.
thing. And it looks like almost like a still one of those images that they have, what are they called? The still images that they get from like when they make the animations, they have a still image.
Like the animation cell?
Yeah. It looks
Yeah.
like an animation cell. It's like that one is right here in my notebook, and I'm probably gonna frame it because it's like, oh, there's my Dobby that I did. I didn't even know that was in there. Ooh.
You
And then
should
this,
always be proud of your work.
this,
Always.
this is one of my
Nice.
Dobby that I did from My Hero Academia. That's just sitting there. It's like I know I have talent, it's just trying to get outside of my own head and do something with it. And that's why I wanted to set this up too, because I want to get encouragement for other artists out there who are just starting, because there's plenty of people who want to do art. And this is one of the things that really upsets me is you hear so many young kids who are in high school, they want to do art, they want to become an artist, they graduate, they want to go to art school, they want to just become an artist and sell their art. And so many people tell them the trope of starving artist. You do not want to do this for a living. Go find yourself a real career. And it upsets me because I go to the cons all the time and I see all you guys out there, and there you are. You're selling yourself, but you're selling your art. And it's so many people just, they have tables, but they don't get visited. And it's like, I go and I talk to them just to talk to them, even if I don't like the art style, just to, give them some conversation. But it's like, there's so many people out there that still believe the old adage that, they shouldn't make this into a career. And so I wanted to get your advice on that and see what you think, because you started and how are you doing it full time?
Okay, so my niece, bless her heart, love her so much. She was on the track to be go to medical school, and she went to the art track, and she's extremely talented, and she will have no problem reaching a professional quality of art. She's already practically there. I'm really proud of her. But it is difficult to do, and it's not, one of the things someone told me is you have to at least be able to do two of these three things. You have to meet your deadlines, you have to be easy to work with and communicate, and you have to do good quality work. And if you hit two of those three, you'll be okay. But it's more complicated than that. If you're gonna do anything full-time independently, you need to understand that there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to make it hard to live. You're not going to have access to health insurance if you live in the United States. You'll have to pay for it yourself. Before I got married, I was spending $300 a month on a plan for me and that was bare bones, and I'm healthy. And that was before everything got twice as expensive. Now I wouldn't be surprised if the same plan was half of $1,000. Like at this point, like it's cost of living is insane. I would not be able to live independently on the amount of money that I make. I have artist friends who do, like the Magic the Gathering artists. They're okay, but I could never get a job with a studio. I did not go to, if you go to art school, you need to go to an art school that has some sort of pipeline. If you want to do studio work, you need to know that ahead of time. You need to go to an art school that has some kind of connection with a studio, because I went to an art school that had no studio connections and no studio would hire me. I was terrified, and I actually started going to school to be an X-ray technician, because I was like, I'll just do art on the side, then I can have health insurance. And then lo and behold, I absolutely was completely miserable doing the X-ray tech thing. Like somebody died while I was X-raying them, and I was really upset. And I just realized that I couldn't live like that. So I left. But if you're going to do the independent artist route, like what you see with a lot of the people with booths, I strongly recommend taking some business classes. I strongly recommend taking some classes on how to do taxes, because my taxes are super weird, because I have to figure out how to pay taxes for several different states. Because if you travel to these different shows, you have to know what the rules are and everywhere. And you're in such a weird thing, because you're not steadily employed. You get large chunks of money at random amounts of time, and you don't know when you're going to get it. So it's actually, I wouldn't say, like, I'm very fortunate, like with my family circumstances. If I was completely independent, if I didn't have the support that I have, I would not be living a good life. But that's just me. That's there are people who do it. There are people who do it well. There are people who are completely happy, but I don't think it's as easy as people say it is. And I don't think that it is. You don't get to do as much art as you think you get to do doing art stuff. Like, you don't just get to sit down and draw all day. You have to like spend all this time figuring out taxes, and you have to figure out inventory, and you have to figure out expenses and price points. You have to figure out marketing. You like, all of these things are not what you necessarily want to be doing. You're like, I want to draw for a living, and that's awesome. But it's so much more than that. And sometimes I sit down and I actually get to draw, and I'm like, wow, this is weird. I haven't gotten to do this for a long time.
Gosh.
So yeah, like definitely people should always create, because creating, I think, is just good for your soul, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think that it's one of the most wonderful things that someone can do. But when you make it your livelihood, you are endangering your ability to enjoy it. Some people still do, but it can easily become like this thing where you're associating your value as an artist on how much money you make. And that is not a healthy thing to associate with it, because there are people out there like Jackson Pollock who just like go and like sleep with the lady in charge of the Guggenheim, and all of a sudden all of a sudden his art is really valuable. And it's not because his art is good. It's because he slept with the lady who ran the Guggenheim, one of the biggest art museums.
Dances.
Yeah. It quickly, in art, it can so easily become about not the work itself, but about the other side of the pin. It becomes this weird popularity contest with you as a person. It's part of why I'm camera shy, because I don't want people to look at the wrong side of the pin. I want people to look at what I'm doing, not who I am. I don't want to get involved in, all of this like popularity contest stuff. So yeah, if you love it and you want to do it and you understand the risks and you are clever, and by all means, go for it. Absolutely go for it. But don't go into it thinking it's going to be easy.
Goes back to what we said earlier. It always starts with that first step, and it's never easy. It's never going to be easy. But if you have a dream, don't let what we just talked about, guys, dissuade you from wanting to not follow this. But
do it informed.
I went to college for music, and then I changed over to business management, and learning in marketing class, everything is marketing. Every single product you see out there is some degree of marketing. So as an artist, as a writer, you have to understand that you are the business, you are the brand, even if your face isn't shown and your art is what's shown, because that's what you want to put out there. You're still the brand, and you're still the one talking to people at the cons and everything. And that might be fun, but like Lorraine said, guys, you have to think before you get into this, because if you want to make this full time, cool, you can do this full time and you can do this professional, but you're probably not going to be as much time spending on doing your art as you think you are. You're going to be spending more time doing the businesses, planning the budgets, trying to figure out what cons to get, trying to get scheduled into cons, having to pay to get into the cons, because yes, guys, artists, vendors, they have to pay for their booths at the con spaces just like you, and they pay more than the ticket price. And some cons even make you pay for the ticket price on top of your booth in order to get in. You don't get special privileges. So
Oh my.
there's all of that included there too. But it's just, I just like doing it for the joyfulness of just being able to do it and say, hey, I have something. It's not like music where I'm singing and I have to make albums. It's like I just like doing it because it brings me joy. And
I think that's art at its best. It's bringing you joy and you're loving it, and you're sharing with other people and you're communicating with other people. That's when it's at its best. Even if you never sell a piece in your life, don't associate the dollars and cents with the value that it has. So it's about your connection with yourself and other people. It shouldn't be about money. Then I don't think it's art anymore. Then I think it's just a job. Like I've definitely taken a few commissions where I'm just like, oh man, I hate this. This is just a job. but yeah.
I remember that one voice actor, Megumi, the voice actor of Megumi from My Hero. She was sitting there and she was doing manga characters of everybody that sat down with her, and she was charging for them, but she said she doesn't mainly do that. So maybe if you have an art talent for art, don't make that your main thing. Like if you have a talent else, like maybe you're a writer, or maybe you're a voice actor or something, or you have like something else that you can sell. Do that, focus on that, and people come over and say, oh, I also draw. Oh, okay, cool. Can you draw me this? Yeah, okay, here you go. And then there, you drew it, you got paid for it. Hey, and if it's something you can actually draw and you're happy with it, then there you go. It's not a job. You just drew something because you love drawing. You draw two, one for you and one for them.
Yeah. I'm definitely not saying don't do it. There's a lot of people who are really happy in life and have a really rewarding career in art, and it's because they love art and they love doing it. And that's a beautiful and that's a wonderful thing. It's just everything has a downside and you have to be ready for it. So that's all. That's really all. Oh, other kitty.
Yep, this is Eevee. This is our Pokemon kitty, Eevee.
Oh,
Cute.
cute.
Above and Flareon.
He just likes to be held.
You got any final things to say?
Just thank you so much for spending this time with us. And I love the artwork. I mean,
Thanks.
Motor City Comic Con. That's our next Comic Con that we're going to be hitting is Motor City Comic Con in Novi, Michigan on the 19th. Is the weekend the 19th? Weekend the 17th? Whatever that weekend is in May.
Yeah.
But we're going to be there, and we're going to be talking to people about what we do, because I love what we do as well with being dating coaches. We meet new people and we get to help people just transform their lives, because our whole goal is to make them go through their own campaign, so to speak, of becoming this little farm boy or this little villager, in the middle of nowhere, and they go on the ultimate quest to become the hero of their own lives by finding their dream partner and also embracing their dreams. So they want to be an artist, there they go. They want to write, there they go. Just want to help connect them with the right people too, and just showcase other warriors out there, because you guys are killing it. And we
Mhm.
love going to this con, seeing all the new people we meet, seeing all the new faces, all the new products that are coming out. It's just amazing what's out there. Like I collect fan art. Like I literally go to artists that if I have the money, I will go up there and I'm like, oh, I like this. I'm gonna buy this. And I buy it and I come home and I
Mhm.
put it in my ultimate collection that I'm gonna hang up one day because one day when we upgrade and have a bigger house, our dream house, I want to have, like I said, that game room where it's all these different every room will have something geeky in it that was created by somebody that I met at a convention.
Mhm.
Aw, that's really great. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like I was telling you earlier, I haven't really done a lot of these interview type things and kind of shy. And I hope that I managed to keep it interesting for you. And thank you
Yeah.
for what you're doing the dating coach thing, because I know a lot of people, especially in the nerdy realm, tend to get really insecure and discouraged and think, maybe I just won't be able to find my person. And I haven't I haven't really seen a lot of your stuff about the dating coach thing, but just in concept, I assume it's good. And I think it's a good thing that you're doing. So
We're basically going through a rebrand, it's still the dating wars, but we're basically relaunching everything. The website's down and we're rebuilding that and we're just rebuilding everything because when we hooked up with that marketing lady that's helping us out with our video editing, she basically gave us a new logo. She actually came out with the colors. She's like, I like these colors. I'm like, I've always had that vision in my head, but I never knew how to do it. Neon colors. I'm like, neon is cool because I'm an 80s person. I grew up in the 90s, but I love the 80s because I grew up with the NES. I grew up with the arcades that were still in the malls. I grew up with all that. And I remember those days where it was all neon colors and the music was cool. And I'm like, I want to live that life again. So let's make that our brand. And it's like we're just
Mhm.
doing that. But ultimately, we want to hit like every con that we can possibly hit that's out there, the major cons, and do our workshops and just reach out to these people because we want to help them transform their lives because we believe that by helping people find their dream partners and helping people find love, we can start eradicating some of the hatred that's in the world and some of the stereotypes that's out in the world. We can start pushing that back to the back and start bringing forward love into the
Yeah.
new next generation.
and everyone deserves to be happy. Everyone deserves to be loved and know that they can be loved. So yeah, more power to you in your quest to help people find that, because I think that's a really beautiful thing.
I was looking at YouTube. If anybody wants to check it out, the webcomic A Tale of Two Rulers now has a full movie comic dub made 6 years ago, and they're still making more.
Wait, they're making more?
They're making more based on more episodes based on the latest apparently according to the latest issues.
Wait, where is this? No one tells me anything.
It's called Starbuck Dubs, and it was.
Oh, I know that she's the one who did it. That was awesome. I didn't know she was making more. That's really cool.
More according to YouTube. Oh no, they went to no. She just apparently she jumped over to Elden Ring comic dubs, but she was doing that. But it's got over chapter 1 alone has over 153,000 views just for that. And then looking at the one that I saw when I Googled was the full movie has over 1.5 million views from 6 years ago up until now. So again, congratulations to her and congratulations to you. And
Mhm.
we look forward to seeing this blossom into whatever it is after Zelda, after you leave the Zelda realm and go into Brave New Worlds. We're looking forward to seeing that because
I'm so excited. I'm going to incorporate clowns.
I can just picture it. Like in my idea, it's like Doctor Who. It's like Doctor Who
Mhm.
shows up and it's like, this is all toy all along. You're going to a new galaxy. Whoop. And then all of a sudden, oh, there it goes, revealed. There's so many ideas you can do with fan
Too many
fiction. It
ideas.
isn't it's amazing what they come up with.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love seeing what people do. It's awesome. Well, thank you for taking this time with me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Now,
thank you very
if
much.
someone wants to find you, where do they need to go?
I have a if someone wants to look at my comic, I have a Webtoons. Just look up A Tale of Two Rulers on Webtoons. It's under my username Figment Forms. You can also just look up Figment Forums on Tumblr. I'm on there. That's really the only social network that I'm actively part of because I'm a weirdo. I
And then the
need
website
to-
everybody earlier was loreillustration.com, I think it was.
yeah, and that's my official kind of my online gallery is loreillustration.com.
Okay. And will you be at any Comic Cons coming up?
I'm going to be at Origins in Columbus. I'm going to be at Gen Con in Indiana. Depending on health stuff, I may be to a few others. I'll post about it on my Tumblr. I might be like I said, I might need another surgery depending on some test results that I'll get in a couple weeks. So
Hopefully it's all positive for you.
oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been a thing. I've been pretty unhappy. Like it's
Wow.
okay.
When people see this, more people see this on YouTube and clips from Instagram, I'm pretty sure everybody will be showering with prayers and blessings by the time. So hopefully it's good news. But I've never heard of Origins. Now I'm gonna have to go look up Origins.
Ooh, if you like if you're anywhere near if you've been to Columbus before, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we live close to Columbus, so
Yeah, then dude, Origins is basically like a mini Gen Con. It's like I used to think of it as Gen Con dress rehearsal. It's a tabletop gaming convention, and they teamed up with I think it's GDEX or something that says like a video game one too, but I never get to really do anything. I mean, getting to have a booth at the con is super cool, but usually I'm just kind of stuck at my table. And then when I'm done being at my table, then I'm tired and I just kind of crawl home or to my hotel room and just.
Imagine it's a lot of excitement and a lot of activity.
It's great. I love talking to people. People are amazing and engaging, and I just get so excited. And then once the day is over, I'm like, I have forgotten to eat for 8 hours, and I'm going to go sleep now. So,
Sounds familiar.
yeah, your body is just drained.
I just looked it up on my phone and it's like, I'm in trouble.
We're always
Yeah, you
like,
got to go now. Now you're stuck. It's a great show. It's like I said, smaller Gen Con. There's fewer lines. I've heard a lot of people say that they like doing Origins because they can actually play the games and have a little more space, as opposed to Gen Con, which is just bonkers. Like there's just it's just so much, like 60,000 nerds all packed into one small city.
I'm looking because we're looking for D&D groups to explore and join and see how other people do DMing. So that'll be plus it's a nice way to buy the expansions to our board games that we've been wanting to buy for a while and buy them at wholesale. Like I'm pretty sure you get a vendor and it's like, well, I'd like to buy all 5 expansion packs, and I'm pretty sure they'll give you a deal for all 5 rather than buying them directly from the company. So hey, there we go. Everdell. We might be able to finally have the complete set of Everdell.
Yeah, there's a lot. Pretty much, I see a lot of the same game retailers at Origins as I see at Gen Con. They're kind of like twins in a way.
Gives us a chance to get hands on with some of the game developers too and play their games and do it live on Instagram and even record some YouTube for with it.
It'd be a great place to get content because it's not nearly as busy. Definitely go hit them up.
I'm looking forward to Gen Con because Critical Role announced that their new tabletop RPG is going to be demoed there, and it's like, there goes all my day.
Aramus for us.
Yeah, are they doing their own D20 system? Or are they getting away from D&D official? I don't watch Critical
It's
Role.
going to be D20. It's going to be a D6 system.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because there's been some problems with the open gaming license with Wizards of the Coast, and now there's it's actually screwing up my role-playing game thing a lot. I'm gonna have to redo and get off of that.
Well, Wizards has stepped back in the news. They've stepped back and finally gave the power back to the people again because they said that they didn't want to upset a lot of people. But the problem was too is Hasbro as a company was behind the scenes making the big decisions because they got told by Bank of America, one of the big investors, that they're like, you guys are putting too many expansions out for D&D. You guys are putting too many expansions out for Magic, and you're raising your prices on all your product. You're going to lose your basic consumer base, and you've got this open gaming license stuff that the fans hate and you're trying to push it on them. So if you guys don't step back, it's going to ruin your company, and we're pulling out as investors. And it's like,
Wow.
I read that in the news, and I'm like, enough fans got against it that they pulled back and like, okay, the OGL will stand as it is. Artists, you
Huh.
guys continue to do your thing, and game developers, you guys can continue to do your thing as long as you're not making millions and millions of dollars off of a product. If you're making like maybe $10,000-$20,000, you don't have to report your income to us. But if you're making like millions of dollars, then we got a problem. We might have to go back and adjust it. But since you guys are just doing this as a hobby and doing it for fun, continue. But
As long as you're not worth eating, we won't eat you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Hasbro. How
Cobalt
kind.
Press- Cobalt Press-
Until I become game worthy to take down, they will let me be. What I don't know what that's gonna do to Paizo.
They made Pathfinder. Cobalt Press made Pathfinder. They said that they've decided they're going their own direction as a just in case anyway. They're ramping up Pathfinder.
That's
as-
the the orc. They're coming out with the orc.
Yeah, they're gonna ramp their own thing up, and Critical Role decided to build their own. They've got two versions of a tabletop RPG. They got one where it's shorter play sessions that build up into an arc, like a story arc that builds up. Whereas the other one, the newer one that's coming out, is going to be longer sessions, long-term storytelling, and they mean long-term storytelling. Like what's not done within a setting of one book. It just keeps going.
That's great. That's really cool. Thanks for letting me know that news. I guess my one little cryptid book is never going to be something that they will bother destroying me over. Cool.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be at Gen Con too. If you get a chance to stop by the Critical Role booth, we're planning on stopping by there. Their publishing house is gonna be there, and we're planning on talking to them about our own project that we're trying to get published. Maybe might get connected with them, and if they say no, well, hey, they say no. But if they say yes, you never know, because there it is.
Dive in, give it a try. And there's other places too. There's other really good publishers. Like there's I think it's called like Drive Through RPG, where it's like a print on demand. You upload your stuff, and if people want it, they'll print it off and then send you a portion of the profit, and they'll mail it off.
Absolutely.
There's some good options out there. I definitely encourage you to give it a shot, because I mean, you guys are so passionate about doing this stuff. Like, you go for it. Like, I'm really excited for you, because there's a lot of good to come out of it.
I know Jess would be more interested in their new game that they got coming out than me, but it might be fun playing a princess for once. They got a new tabletop RPG / card game combo, deck building, that everybody at the table plays as princesses, and you're all trying to secure the spot, I guess, of being the royal monarch.
Oh,
Like, so it's deck building.
sisters are fighting.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this is gonna sound interesting, but yeah, no, I'm just looking forward to just checking out some more games and highlighting some box openings and games again, because I missed on that too. Because that's another thing we do as an aspect of our business is we showcase other people's games. Like if a new game comes out that we're interested, we literally show the box opening, and then we sit down and we even do a playthrough and show people. We record it or we do it live, and we show them how to play it and talk to them about it. And it's like so much to get hyped about in this world, because geeks, gamers, nerds, we all unite at these things, and there's so much that we can change the world if we all came together.
There's so much cool stuff too that just doesn't get noticed because it doesn't have a good platform. So that's really great that you can help provide something like that.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
nothing to say. Like my brain's automatically taking off into that fantasy novel that I want to write.
Zone out time begins. Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And when I get a chance, I'm going to take one of your art pieces from your portfolio, and I'm going to snip it on an Instagram piece and share it and tell people where they can find you, because when they see this video, I want people to be able to see some of the epic stuff that you've done, and sharing clips from this. And we just hope that you continue to get well and continue, and we'll see you at the con, because that way now Jessica can finally see you in person and see
Yes.
some of the artwork that you have laid out at the table. This is some of the cool stuff. And if you have that game there, or at least if it's close to being developed, I'd love to see it too, because I'm curious now myself
I have the RPG game. I'll email you guys a PDF of it. You can just play around, have fun. I can give you guys a copy if you want to see it. It's just the RPG one, the D20 one. The card game thing is still in development, but hopefully it'll get done soon. So
Our the tabletop ones we always do. Me and Jess are planning on doing our own video series on this channel of other tabletop RPGs too, because we want to get engrossed in that world and showcase other people's cool RPGs. Like there's one that just came out based on is it Jane, what's her name? The author that wrote Emma, Jane
Austen.
Jane Austen, yes. It's a date night.
Ooh.
It's for couples. They just sit down, only two. It only requires two for a party, but you're literally engrossing yourself in Jane Austen's world, but they add in like fantasy characters like zombies and dragons and things like that. And they add on to it. I'm like, couples. That's awesome. Just two people in a party saving each other.
That works well with your date coaching thing too. Like, getting to play and have fun with, the person that you're trying to get to know.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get to know people, particularly with their sense of humor. How to react if it doesn't go their way.
That's pretty much coaching too. It's like we start them with build your origin of your character, and then we're going to build this epic origin, this epic story for you. And as you're going out and talking to new people, you come back, report to us. We tell you how to adventurize it so that you're leveling up as you're talking to new people. You're leveling up your skills of confidence. You're leveling up your skills of talking and speech and how to tone back some of that geekiness, because a lot of geeks, when they go on a date, the moment they know that their date say Superman or something, they start coming out with random facts, and it's like, no, tone that back.
They're not there to listen to a documentary about Superman. They're there to get to know you.
And that's what we go through. We literally go through our own little, almost like a D20 system without having the dice being rolled, because they're rolling the dice every day to get out of bed. It's either a 20. You either hit or you don't. You hit or you don't.
Oh, that's awesome though. Like, just keep it up. I feel like I keep sidetracking you guys. Like, we keep trying to.
This is how we always do it.
That's how we do it.
Okay.
One of the conversations we recently had was somebody could have gone on for 3 hours, because this is why we want this Warrior Roundtable to exist, because we can geek out. You can geek out about Star Trek. Like, we could have a conversation about Star Trek and literally go on and geek out about that for hours. We could geek out about, like, there's always something to geek out about, and it's.
Oh yeah, like the.
We want people to be able to geek out and just be themselves, and also, give feedback and helpful advice and share their stuff too.
Yeah, it's been really interesting seeing the fan reaction to the new Ganondorf design. Just seeing people like just go crazy. I'm like, oh my god, guys, calm down.
Something different.
I'm getting you to try Breath of the Wild. You must try Breath of the Wild. I must beat Breath of the Wild. Dang, I'm still stuck. Uh-oh. Thanks, Pokemon. I'm Brian Eccles.
I'm Jessica Ferris.
And we are the Dating Warriors. And this has been another rendition of the Round Table. One day we hope to actually have an actual round table. We can actually sit with our guests across from the table and just geek out and get a whole bunch of people together in the same room and just geek out and have round table discussions. But that's a time and a different time, place, and a different time period that will happen eventually down the road. But right now, the Warrior Roundtable is your place for geeking out, for gaming, for your passion for fantasy, for writing, whatever your geek out moment, whether it's even cosplay. If you go to a con, or you've never been to a con, or
What you need to do.
you definitely need to do, or you're just having trouble with your dating life and you don't know how to attract your dream partner, but you're tired of being alone at night. We're the Dating Warriors, and we're here to help you transform your dating life by taking you on the hero's journey of your own life and transforming you into that noble knight, that noble princess that turns into the queen. Whatever you want your dream to be, we want to make it a reality, and we want to help you find that dream partner who's going to carry you as your supportive character and no longer be a non-player character in your life, because you've been surrounded by non-player characters too much. It's time for you to gather your party, charge out, and roll a critical hit every single day. We're the Dating Warriors. If you like the content, don't forget to follow us Don't forget to subscribe and comment below what you think your favorite part of this video is and what you want to know more about. And if you want to see Lorraine back on the channel again in the future, and we can talk about some other subjects related to art, Star Trek, whatever you guys want to see, let us know. We want to thank our guest, Lorraine, for being here. Your artwork is phenomenal.